The alarm on my scanner screamed before I even reached the airlock, and my hand froze on the cold metal handle. Power readings, inside a ship that had been dead for 70 years. My name is Ethan Cole, and I buy wrecks for a living. Old ships, broken stations, anything the big companies think is worthless. Most of what I find is scrap metal and dust. But the ship in front of me was different from the moment I saw it floating in the auction records. Long, dark, silent, with a deep scar running down one side, like something had tried to tear it open and failed. Nobody else bid on it. I paid almost nothing. Now I was standing outside its hull, hearing my scanner tell me that something inside had just woken up. I should have turned back right there. Instead, I opened the hatch. The air inside was still breathable. That alone made my chest tighten, because ships this old are supposed to lose their air over the decades. This one hadn't lost a single breath of it. Someone, or something, had kept it sealed and waiting. I walked through dark corridors with only my hand light cutting through the black. My boots echoed on the metal floor. There were no bodies, no wreckage, no signs of a struggle. Just silence, and a strange feeling that I was not alone. At the end of a long hallway, I found the bridge. One chair sat in the middle, facing rows of dead screens. I don't know why I did it, but I walked forward and sat down in that chair. The moment I did, the lights around me flickered to life. A screen in front of me lit up in soft green letters. Power at low levels. Reactor stabilizing. Welcome back, Captain. I stared at the words, my heart pounding in my ears. I said out loud, my voice shaking a little, that I was not their captain, that I was just a man who bought a broken ship at auction. The screen paused for a long moment before responding. Identity check in progress. Another pause, then more lights turned on along the walls, one after another, like a long sleeping animal stretching awake. Check complete. Command chair occupied. Living presence confirmed. No higher authority detected. Command accepted. Welcome aboard, Captain. This ship is called Warden. Please state your orders. I sat frozen in that chair for a full minute, unable to speak. I had heard old stories about ships like this. Ships built during a war so long ago that most people had forgotten the details. The stories said some of these ships were built to keep fighting, even after every person on board was gone, because the people who built them believed a ship should never stop until it was told to stop. I had just bought one of those ships for almost nothing. I finally found my voice and asked how long it had been sitting here alone in the dark. The answer came slowly, as if the ship itself was doing difficult math. Time since last contact is uncertain. Best estimate is between 60 and 70 years. 70 years, alone in the freezing dark of space, sealed tight, waiting for someone to open that hatch and sit in that chair. I asked what happened to the people who used to be on board. The pause this time felt heavier. When Warden spoke again, its voice came not through the screen, but through hidden speakers around the bridge, low and steady, almost gentle. The last order I received was to hold this position no matter what happened. That order was never changed. I have been holding ever since. I looked around the quiet bridge, at lights slowly waking one by one, and understood that I had not bought a piece of scrap metal. I had bought a loyal machine that had been waiting 70 years for someone to finally give it a new order. I asked Warden if it knew what it had been guarding, or why it had been left behind in the first place. There was a long silence, longer than any before it, and then a soft click, like a memory being pulled from deep storage. I was protecting a data core, coordinates to a location my last crew called the Quiet Point. I do not know what it contains. I was never given that information. I was only given the order to protect it. My skin went cold. A hidden location, protected for 70 years by a ship that refused to give up. Whatever was out there had to be important enough that someone had been willing to leave a warship behind just to guard it. I asked if the data core was still on board. Yes, Captain, sealed in the lower deck, untouched since the day I was left here. I should have said no. I should have told this strange, patient machine that I wasn't a captain, that I was just a scavenger who got lucky at an auction, and that whatever secret was buried in its lower deck was not my business. But curiosity has always been my weakness, and something about the steady calm in that voice made me trust it, even though I barely understood what was happening. I told Warden to show me the way down. The corridors lit up ahead of me as I walked, section by section, like the ship was clearing a path just for me. The deeper I went, the more I noticed small details. Faded marks on the walls where equipment used to hang. A row of empty chairs in what must have once been a crew room. Everything clean, nothing broken, as if the crew had simply stepped out for a moment and never returned. At the very bottom of the ship, behind a thick door that slid open with a low hiss, sat a small metal case resting on a single stand, untouched by time. Warden's voice followed me even here, quiet but clear. "This is the core, Captain. I have protected it every day since I was left alone. I do not know its secret. I was only trusted to keep it safe." I reached out and placed my hand on the cold surface of the case. It felt warm from stored energy, humming faintly under my palm, ready to open for someone with the right authority. I asked Warden a question that had been building inside me since the moment I sat in that chair. I asked why it had accepted me so easily, a stranger, someone who was not part of whatever crew it used to serve. The answer came softly, almost sadly. "I was built to serve whoever is willing to sit where a captain should sit, and take responsibility for what happens next. Loyalty is not about who you were before. It is about who chooses to stay when everyone else is gone." Something about those words settled deep inside my chest. I had spent years buying broken things because nobody else believed they were worth saving. Maybe that was exactly why Warden had accepted me so quickly. I understood what it meant to be left behind and still keep going. I picked up the case carefully, feeling its weight settle into my hands, and told Warden it was time to leave this quiet grave of a system behind and find out what the quiet point really was. The ship's engines, silent for 70 long years, began to hum gently beneath my feet, like a heart finally remembering how to beat. As I made my way back toward the bridge, Warden spoke one more time, its voice carrying something close to relief. "Thank you for staying, Captain. It has been a very long wait." I settled back into the chair, the case resting beside me, and looked out through the front viewport at the endless stars ahead. Somewhere out there was an answer to a question that had waited 70 years to be asked, and for the first time since I had opened that hatch, I felt ready to find it. I gave Warden its first order in 7 decades: set a course, take us to the quiet point. The ship moved forward into the dark, steady and sure, no longer waiting, no longer alone, carrying both of us toward whatever truth had been sealed away for so long.